I scream like a banshee. All right, ready? Little signal. I don't know if we're ready or not. So.
Are we okay, Bob? You're okay.
All right. All right, let's get started. This is the January 29th meeting of the Wareham Finance Committee. I need a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Present are Joan Fonts, Marilyn Jordan, Larry McDonald, Bonnie Catulli, Dominic Camerano, and Tom Worthen.
And the Vice Chair will be along shortly. Okay, any citizens' participation? Anybody want to speak to us? Wow, that's a shocker. Okay, first one up is come on in. First one up is the Municipal Maintenance Department. This is for seeking CPC funds for different projects. Oh boy. We are killing trees tonight, fellas.
You certainly found out where the money is, David.
Hey, Tom. Great, thank you. Thank you.
Basically, I got 4 applications, starting from small to large. The first one, we're looking at $10,000 for the onset bathhouse, an engineering study to see what we can do with that. They're looking like first aid station, or breaking that up for like little rental pieces or something like that. What we can do with it without raising it, because it's in the flood zone and stuff like that. So we got to kind of find out what we can do without getting too deep into it that it has to be raised.
And this is a legal fee?
The engineering study, just to see what we can do with that building, within the building codes, and they're trying to do something with the building.
Before I get started, I wanted to ask, and have you already really met with CPC so you know what fits in their categories and how it fits in, or is there any issues with that, or have you already talked to them at all?
Yeah, I was just down there just recently. I was going to go back there after this meeting because theirs was at 6. And that's why I was going to get their feedback after I went through you guys to make sure I went to the board last night, and they all approved it to go forward, to let me go forward with these.
Is
projects.
there already a tenant in the bathhouse right now?
They had they rented it to a kayak thing, but there's nothing in there now. No.
They're gone.
Yeah, they're gone. Just a seasonal.
Mr.
Yes.
Chair.
Have they applied for this year?
Use the mic, Dom, because we're getting.
Apologize. Have they applied for to use it this year? The kayak company?
Not that I know of. I don't know. I don't know if Derek would know that.
Approach the bench.
Hello. They had, when we bid it out, it was for a 3-year lease. The payments that are coming in are pretty nominal. We've written it into the lease that we can cancel it at any time if need be. That's in a way, it's almost a genesis for this. It was the first time, if you went down to Onset last year and you saw the activity around the bathhouse with the kayaks, it was really, it was something that was really exciting for the area. It seemed cleaner. You had activity. You didn't have this rundown building. So we have essentially a beachfront jewel of a building that's just sitting there and not giving anything back to the community. And that could be any sort of function. It could be bringing revenues back into the town, and that's really what we want to look at. Now, we know with FEMA issues, if you put more than 50% of the assessed value into the building, it's going to trigger all sorts of new regulations. So part of the engineering study is see how you would operate this facility. In other words, what can be done to it to make it a viable option for either any sort of commerce, lease, or anything, and turn what's essentially an eyesore into the jewel that it is. So.
Well, on that FEMA rule, it's 50% every year, correct?
For the, it's when you upgrade it for the, whatever the assessed
So the
value is.
Right, so the assessed value the first year, we could put in 50%, and then the next year, you could even make it better, and year after that, if I believe I'm right, but
Yeah, I
I
probably,
could be wrong.
whenever we get something that could be skirting the lines, I probably just stay mum.
Okay, but because you know when I was young, that was great. I mean, you could rent lockers there. They had a food place there. It was tremendous, and you're right. It's sitting there, and it could be tremendous revenue.
I was going to make a comment about it not being historic, but apparently if it
It
was
was
around
historic.
when you
When
were
I
young,
was a child, it was historic.
Well,
yeah.
it's not, it's actually.
You could rent a locker for a
it's under
nickel.
recreation, yeah.
Yeah, it also falls under recreation. Any more questions?
Just a quick one.
Yes.
So this engineering study, it's not like limiting its use. We're looking at the possibility of what sorts of use we could do with this?
Yeah, they'll come further on with it as well. We're looking to see what it's going to cost to fix this
Okay.
and bring it up, because there's the pump station in there that gets flooded out all the time, so it's completely rotted out. What's the cost for that? And it's you know, there's a lot that we need to look into.
Tom, do you have another one?
Without the study, and you had to make a guess, what do you think that the actual cost of getting it to whatever the recommendations are going to be? Are we talking another 50,000, 100,000?
I think you'd be. I'm not in construction, but I would say you're speaking about six figures and going up higher all the time. So you'd want to be able to see.
Is CPC able to
I think you're putting the cart before the horse there, Tom. I mean, this is a study. We can't ask them that question until they see the study. And whether CPC joins or not, it's not contingent on whether CPC puts further money into it. It's one step at a time.
But, I mean, if we're going to do a study and we find out it's going to cost $1 million, we can't afford the $1 million. So the study.
I believe
Hold
it's-
on,
it's-
hold
I
on.
believe it can be done.
First off, this is CPC money. And I understand the whole concept. We had this discussion before. The money is coming from us, but it's not coming from the town. And if we can do some of these things with CPC money, then we're not burdening the town's budget. Is that-
Yes.
So,
And it doesn't, just because you guys approve it, it doesn't mean that
That's correct.
CPC is going to approve it
all,
for the town.
all we're doing is approving him to seek CPC funds. That's
Yes.
all we're doing. Yes, Don.
Do you know the assessed value off the top of your head?
I don't.
All right.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, so let's take them one at a time and vote on them. Okay, all those in...
I move
Oh,
favorable.
sorry, I can't do that, can I?
I move favorable action
Second.
To seek,
to approve this project to go forth for CPA funding.
all right, and I got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Anyone abstain? One, two, you're abstaining? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0, 1. All right, want to go over the second one?
Okay, the second one's going to be the Old Town offices. Right now, they're in the middle of a painting project, and they found a lot of insect damage, wood damage. If you look on the second page, under goals, it pretty much tells you, the clapboard, the bulkhead itself. They can't. It's rotted. They can't paint it. So I got a couple quotes on it, and I'm looking to keep it under the $25,000 to get the the restoration done, before they can continue the painting project and finish that building.
Any questions? Yes, Marilyn.
If we had more staff, was this feasibly something that municipal maintenance would do?
If I had the funding and the staff, yes, we could probably do
You
the
going to
repairs and
outsource
stuff
the
like this.
entire project, or are you going to?
Yeah, this is outsourced, and it's already been outsourced for the painting, so this would be outsourcing the repairs.
Tom?
Go ahead. Sorry,
Judy,
Marilyn.
That's okay, I'm sorry. So this work is already ongoing. Did you just
It's
inspect
been
it?
halted now that the painting they did the scraping and everything in the building, and they found all this wood damage, and they gave us a that which they didn't have when they first originally did it. They only had a set amount of money for $50,000 to do the painting and scraping and all the de-leading and all the stuff, and they didn't put any monies for this work.
This is a private concern that came in with a bid of $50,000 to do the painting and what have you.
Yes, and do some little repairs. There was some money in there for that, but not at this extent.
Where did that money come from?
CPC. CPA.
I'd agree with, as long as you put a clause in there that the money will be, the action would be taken within 90 days after approval. Be completed.
The project be
The
completed? Well, it still have to be, like I said, it still has to be approved by the CPC
Yeah, no,
and the town meeting, so there's a little bit to go.
So
Then I'll,
it's really 90 days after the town meeting, it's approved in town meeting, if it gets approved in town meeting. I mean, we got to have some sort of a deadline on these things, or they never get done.
yeah,
But that's not for us. That's for the contract with the town. We're talking about seeking CPC money. We're not talking about putting restrictions on contracts. That's something that has to be done with the town. I mean, we can suggest that, but not at this point, because we're talking about whether to allow him to go forward to seek the money. That's what we're looking for.
In different times, if this went over, we could try and make it up through a budget. What would have happened is we would have had it paid out of municipal maintenance, and then we could even come back for CPA funding for it. We just don't have the money to do it. That's why we have essentially a building that's now getting hit with the winter weather, increasing the rot and the damage, but we don't have the funds to do it until we get it appropriated through the spring town meeting, or the spring special.
Questions? Yes.
We approved the painting of this building in the Springtown meeting, or the June town meeting. And here we are worried about getting it completed. So I think it's worthwhile to put some sort of a go-to-hell date on it, that we get this particular step completed, or the money comes, or the money, you don't get the money. I mean, somehow we got to get these things completed.
But that's for town meeting to say that. That's not for us to say.
Yeah, and I think there's...
I understand that, but we can talk about it, but it's whether or not they can go forward to seek the money for CPC. If we're talking about whether or not we put a drop dead date, that's not something we decide here. That's town meeting vote. If they want to put a amendment on it to make it done in a certain time, they can do that as well.
Yeah, I think the people need to understand the process as well. So it gets passed in June. Now we need historical to sign off on what's going to be put into the bid. You need the bid put together. The bid has to go out there for 30 days. Then you evaluate it and get the responses.
I know
Then you award it. Then they start the work. Then they find the rot. Then you say, we have no money to do it, so now we have to wait till the April town meeting. So I think that's... So when it says it's June, it should have been done right away. Well, it's a lovely idea, but we have the procurement laws and all that pertain usually tie our hands to a lot of things. This is going to have to be bid out again because this is so outside the scope of the contract. It's going to be most likely somebody else to do the work. Then the work that's going to be done, historical again, is going to say what can be replaced, what sort of materials you use as well. So it's not always entirely in the hands of the town government or the municipal maintenance department for these times.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I move favorable action to approve the project not to exceed $25,000 for repairs on the Main Street property.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Well, one wasn't here yet, so it's 8-0-0. Go ahead.
All right, the third one, is going to be for the Tremont Nail fire system. That's not to exceed $595,000. This is something that the back part of the building, it's down and out now. It failed like 3 times in 1 month, and the bills to reset the system and replace a couple pipes here and there. It's been $2,000, $2,500, and after the 3rd time, it's no longer feasible in my budget to be able to keep repairing the system. Since then, I applied through the fire department to see if we could have the system shut down, and they returned back that absolutely not. They cannot allow us to shut the fire system, suppression system down due to the fact of the size of the buildings and the proximity of the Little People's College over there. And that's pretty much, I've talked to a fire engineer, and he said once these systems start having all kinds of pinholes in them, you could just keep throwing money. I've had the quotes of trying to repair this at $10,000, and he said you're just throwing money away because you're going to just be chasing the pipes here, chasing the pipes there, and every other day you'll be chasing more pipes. So he said he recommended that should be a full replacement of the system. These old dry valves, that, like I said, this is all outdated and worn out. So this is where we're at. Is trying to use the CPC funds to redo the fire system so we can get back into the regulations.
That building is completely vacant, am I correct?
That's correct.
And then I don't understand how we can have to be mandatory on a vacant building. I mean, isn't the fire protection would be, yes, I understand the town wants to protect the building and all that, but how can the fire department make you, there's no chance of loss of life? It's just a loss of structure, and that's
They're
something
saying
that-
might be possible loss of life to their personnel if they're fighting the fire, that they're risking their personnel also.
And I agree, I wouldn't want any firefighter or anyone to get loss of life, but I can't see how they can make you have a sprinkler system in a vacant building. I just don't believe that the laws would warrant that.
Well,
really don't.
it's the size of the facility.
And
That's what he's saying, the size of the facility, and with the Little People's College, if that thing catches up and transfers over across to the Little People's College. That's what they're stating, and his protection of his own firefighters. That's what he's basing this on, when he has to go in there and fight that with no fire system in place.
We also have to remember that we have an outstanding bond note of over $600,000 on that. So we're looking to see what securitized that, whether it was the town itself, whether the building was part of that. We also are looking with Maya to see if if the fire suppressant system is shut down, are we now no longer covered from them as well? There's people, we all make jokes, I'm sure some of us, about it, but that building, if something were to happen to it, it's going to be a financial devastation to us. So that's not something we would want to happen.
Any more questions?
No, I'm not done yet, thank you. So you're saying that it's more of a protection for our financial, that you believe that, I mean,
that's
is a mortgage, are we required by law? Or not by law, but by any documents that you know of that requires us, like, I have to have insurance on a mortgage, is it in a clause that we have to have a sprinkler system in that building to protect it?
Yeah, so I'm searching with Maya to see what would happen with that, and again, whether that building was part of the bond when we put it out, whether it's securitized the bond note. And again, the letter we had received quoted Mass General laws, or the laws that the fire department had. So I mean,
That's in the goals right there. It's
Yeah.
that Mass General Law, Chapter 148, Section 27A. To quote him.
so
That's in here?
Yeah, the second page under goals, one of the goals, just under community needs, one of them's there.
140.
No, it's goals, under goals, number 1.
So it's a bit of a conundrum. We can't keep on pouring money into this suppressant system, but we can't let it go and have it shut off. So what can we do? So this is why we're asking for the funds.
I'm not sure I believe that, but.
Well, let me help you out. I think, based on the discussion I heard last night and some of the discussion here, this is going to be a hard sell at town meeting, but that doesn't preclude us from allowing you to go to CPC and writing the article. I just don't. I mean, I think it's fine with, well, we'll vote on that, but I just think this is going to be a hard sell at town meeting because of the amount and the sunk cost we have in that building to begin with. So that's just where I'm at. Any more questions? Tom?
Do I understand it right? We owe 600,000. We're going to spend 600,000 to protect 600,000. So the building goes away instead of where it's an equal deal.
So what we could do is pay off the note.
That's
Yes.
correct.
But we wouldn't be. We'd be able to do that next spring, and that'd be approximately the $600,000. It is callable.
If we had a revenue projection for what this facility could bring in, this thing would make a heck of a lot more sense.
This
Different discussion. Let's
Yeah.
let's get this done, and then we can talk about revenue streams and everything else from.
Yeah,
from
because
there.
I think the easy thing is we all would rather have some of the community preservation money going into something that's cute and fuzzy or bringing us money back. You're seeing the items that we're requesting, but this seems to be something that we feel is an obligation. So
All right, I'll entertain them. Oh yeah, Jeffrey, you want to?
Well, I don't, what is the cost of maintaining this? You said you're getting, all right. You said you're getting problems every year. Thank you. I'm just wondering if the cost, what's another year cost on doing the maintenance on the?
It could get, right now, the system's shut down. We were looking at a possibly $10,000 repair to get it back up and running. And the way it is now, it seems to be failing more and more.
Right.
I mean, you could spend $50,000 on this next year, I don't know. Or maybe it'll just only fail once and I'll only have to spend $2,000. I can't tell you. The way the fire engineer said, once this starts like that, you're going to just keep chasing and chasing it. He says he's been, the fire engineer said that, he's been in these systems, and once they start failing like that, it just gets
Well, it's like
catastrophically worse.
fixing a brake line, on a
Yeah.
car. Then the next spot goes, but it's
Yeah,
a
if you
dry.
only put a little piece in, how long is the other little piece
It's
gonna
a dry
last?
system, though, right?
Dry system, yes.
And if it fails, what's the risk that if you're not there and it fails,
What
how
happens is
much
it
time
floods-
do you have before the water starts?
Actually, it sends a signal right to the fire department right off the bat, so they know it's. But what it does is flood the pipes, and if what the case like we have, it freezes in this time of year, and it ends up just breaking the pipes, dumping the water all over the place, and it's
Well,
a problem.
I guess what I'm asking is, and I'm coming at this from a new angle. I don't have the history, so I don't know if I have the best knowledge on this, but if we need another year to decide before we spend 600,000, is it worth the risk to hold off and maybe patch it with the?
Well, at this point, the
Tender.
fire department might look for he's going to, if we say denial and do nothing with this, he might go to the state fire marshal and stuff, and I don't know if they'll implement any kind of restrictions. Who knows? Maybe they can, where it's a state, they can stop my Chapter 90 funds availabilities. I don't know how far they can get with the fire versus, you know what I mean? I'm not sure.
I think that we're all kind of on the same page. You understand it's a lot of money, and we're fairly skeptical about it. But for the purposes of what we're here for tonight, I'm going to suggest that we move this through to CPC. The warrant article, if I'm correct, will come back to us for further vetting then, so we can have done more investigation and have more questions before we actually vote on the warrant article itself. But tonight, I'll like to move favorable action to put this through to CPC.
Can I ask one question? Sure. My question was just on the number, because you've got a pretty standard number. It doesn't say up to, 595. So was this a bid out, or just an estimate?
Yes, that was a quote that came in, and it was on the high side. He said it should come on, he put in for, everything, every main pipe, screw. He said this is above and beyond. He expects that to come in lower than that figure, but you got to put that there just to cover your
Okay, that's the only
self.
reason I was asking. And I just want to make a comment on, just in my personal experience, because I just went through this with the fire marshal, okay, with my system, and he has the right to not approve it, period, even if they patched it. If he doesn't feel as though the system is safe, he has the right to not approve it, too.
I'll entertain a motion.
No, one more.
No, come on, let's go. We got enough questions.
Fine.
I move favorable action on the article before us to approve this request for CPA funding for $595,000 for Tremont Nail Company's sprinkler system to be passed forward to CPC.
Second?
All those in favor? All those opposed?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand. Can we do
Sorry,
that? I
let's-
was raising
sorry.
my
Faster.
hand.
All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstain? I got 3, 4,
Does this mean they
1.
don't have the choice to go?
No, they can't go to CPC
Can't go to
now, so
CPC.
What was
So
the
if
vote on
I-
that? What was
it's
it?
3, 4, 1.
3, 4, 1?
So if I understand this, the purpose of tonight's vote was to allow him to bring it before community preservation.
That's all it is.
So as this stands, this body will not allow this to be brought before community preservation.
Apparently, yes.
Okay.
In other words, excuse me, let me just go back 1 second. So CPC hasn't approved it. Are we the first people to see this? Has the select
Board
approved
of
this?
Selectmen have approved it, and now it comes to you. You guys have to approve it or not, and then I go to CPCs.
And then it has to still get past town meeting, correct?
Dom, it's going to
All right,
come back to
all
us
right.
before it even goes to
I'll make a
town.
motion to reconsider the vote, please.
So moved.
All those in favor of reconsidering the vote?
Aye.
All those opposed? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, let's try it again. All those in favor of reconsidering the vote? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those 6. And all those opposed? 1, 2, and an abstain. So it's 5 to 1 to reconsider. So let's vote this again.
Let's make a clarification
Well, let-
first,
let
if
me
I
do
may.
this.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm-
clarify
I'm
what we're
gonna-
voting on. Procedure.
Okay, because this is really, all we're voting on is to allow him to go to CPC and seek the funds. Then,
Okay.
let me finish.
Yes, I'm
He's going to seek the funds. At that point, if he gets the funds, they'll have to put an article in, which will come back before us for review, which is what we just basically did tonight, which
Not
we,
if he gets the funds, if he gets approval.
if he gets approval to seek the funds, he goes to them, they write an article, then they come back to us, and then we review it, and we vote it up or down. And that's for our benefit in advising town meeting. Yes?
Can I just ask a question? The article isn't for 595,000, this is just to ask for a study?
No.
I'm
No.
not, this is the article.
No, the article,
For repair.
it's to replace it.
Replace it. Yes.
And at that point in time, we'll vet the article here, we'll vote on it, then we'll put our advice in for town meeting, and then we go to town meeting with it. That's it. That's all we're doing tonight, is we're just allowing him to go seek CPC funds. Yes.
The clarification I want is, he can go, he should be able to go to CPC, but he should say that selectmen voted this and the finance committee voted that.
It doesn't work that
That is
way.
not the way it works.
That's not the way it
Well,
works.
here, you're gonna go to CPC, if they approve it, you're gonna come back to us, and then we're gonna turn it down. So
Are we?
we're sending
Okay,
the wrong signal to CPC.
No, it's not that works that way. In the town of Wareham, there is a policy that states in order for a town department to seek CPC funds, they must first get a approval to seek CPC funds from the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. That's the policy in town. And so therefore, it's if we don't feel like they should be seeking CPC funds, that's one thing. But as far as the actual article, whether or not,
I don't think they should be thinking.
You hit the
Why
nail right on the head. It's, really, this vote is Not whether or not we agree with what.
That's
this
what I've been
says.
saying.
It's whether or not we want him, we're allowing him to go and try.
Right.
Whether I'm against it or not, because I'm against it, but I shouldn't stop him from trying.
Right, because
That's-
he's gonna have to
that's
come
why
back
I-
to us anyway.
We
that's
get a
why I
second
wanted to
bite of
bring-
the apple to
That's
come
why I
back
wanted to
and
bring
say
it
no.
back up. I'll let him
Yeah.
try, I'll get no problem.
Again, I'll entertain a vote for, whatever, you go ahead and make the motion.
I move favorable action to approve this project to go forward with CPA funding.
And
Second.
discussion.
Although,
Deep discussion.
sure,
Discussion on the motion, I don't feel that any vote is a matter of right. The policy of the town is that it stops at the Finance Committee and one of its junkets along the way. And so I think that if you feel strongly about something, then you are obligated to vote the way you feel, not... So I understand what you're saying, it's going to come back, but there's a reason why it stops here at this point. And then,
fair,
But
fair.
but I think the reason tonight is not whether or not, the reason is that we disagree with what this is.
Mm-hmm.
Do we feel that it's wrong that he's seeking these funds? That's the question. The
right.
question isn't against the project, it's against, do we think that this funding is wrong for this project? That's what I think the
Well,
vote is tonight.
yeah, but everyone might come to use a different set of items to come up with their opinion. And again, mine is that, no, I don't want them to go forward with this.
Okay, then no, you're right.
Really? Actually, no, I have to ask him a question.
Okay.
So in your opinion, you don't want them to seek CPC funds for this project, which is a legitimate use of CPC funds. Do you have an alternative for saving a, what, $2 million building?
$2
No,
million property,
no,
building.
it's not a, I'm sorry that, you're impassioned on this, but we are not saying that if they don't get this vote, that building is going down. What we're saying is, well, no, that's what I was just presented with. What I'm saying is that I don't think that at this time our plans are firm enough that on, January 29th, 2014, that I'm ready to say, let's go forward with another $600,000 from CPC. I happen to have a different belief on CPC. I'm not going to try to bring that up tonight, but I don't think it's for this type of project. But that's my opinion on it. I understand that you're already involved in this project, and we need to see it through to its conclusion. But I don't know if we have the right decision here on this. And a lot of the discussion is not firm. We don't know what the fire department's going to rule. We don't know what Meyer is going to rule. We don't really know the full extent of the situation on the fire suppression system. So
you don't feel as though those issues can be sought out and figured out long before April town meeting? That is where it will actually be vetted, is on town meeting
then why
floor.
is it coming to the finance committee tonight? Am I
Because
supposed to advocate my responsibility?
This is a procedure.
No, I'm not going to.
It's a procedural thing.
Let's just let it go.
Everyone has their opinion of it.
I agree, I'm not gonna.
Oh, I think you're
Okay,
wrong.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
All right.
Hands up so I can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those against? That's 3 against, so it's, what was it, 6-3?
If we only have 9, that makes 9.
You know, I'm just tired. I'm sorry. All right, one more.
Okay, the fourth and final one is on the dam itself part. I applied for a grant, and we ended up getting $165,000 for the grant part, and they gave us $835 at a 20-year, 2% low interest loan. I'm seeking the $835 from the CPC to back that up.
I just don't understand. Can you clarify that? You've applied for a grant.
Yeah, and
From-
when you apply for these things, it was for $1 million, but you don't know what they're gonna, what they'll give you for grant money, what they'll give you for a low. They can give you a 0% loan or a low interest 20-year 2%, and that's what was part of the grant was as far as through the Office of Dam Safety. That's what they offered. So, for I can get the whole project done.
So essentially, to explain it, they had the dam and seawall grants. We were awarded a grant of $1 million. However, $835,000 of it turned out to be low-interest loans, 2%, and that is to fix the Parker Mills Dam, which is a high-hazard dam, and that's the one right by Tremont Nail. So what we're seeking is to have community preservation make the payments on the loan to cover the costs of it.
Okay, so
That's a little different.
so we're not seeking,
$835,000.
We are.
We
but
are
we're
overall.
seeking CPC to borrow it, am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a little different. Okay.
Questions? Yes, David.
As I understand, what we're doing is we're asking CDC to provide $835,000 over the course of 20 years?
Yes.
That's plus interest over the course of 20 years?
Yes.
So it's a 20-year commitment from CDC?
Yes. Or if they change, they don't have to go for that, right? Can they go for like a 10-year thing or whatever CPC chooses to do?
Yeah.
I would assume.
Any more? Yes, Marilyn.
So CPC, we're gonna borrow you're asking them to borrow their funds, and they're gonna be charging the town back 2%?
The Office of DM Safety, yeah, will be charging,
Community
2%.
preservation would pay the interest on it.
yes.
No funds from the general government would be coming out. It'd be from the community preservation funds.
So the 165 million that you got, 835 of that was a loan, so you really only got about $200,000 free and clear.
Yes.
The other 835, we have to pay 2% interest on over 20 years.
Yes.
CPC has to pay it to the
Yes.
dam foundation or whatever it is.
Yep.
No
So,
need to swear now.
and what about the other 165?
That's free and clear. They're giving us that.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
I do, because
Go
I'm
ahead.
still confused. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
please.
Larry, I know you're going to ask some questions. I'm dazed and confused here. So CPC is not putting up $835,000. The Boundless Dam,
Office of DM Safety, yeah.
they're putting up the $835,000.
Yes.
CPC only has to pay the loan back.
Yes.
Over
For 20 years,
Over
yeah.
20 years. You know the payment schedule, you know, any idea?
No, I don't
What the
have-
payment schedule
that-
would be?
All that stuff would have to, it's going to get approved through CPC first, and then we have to get all these figures after.
Eric, you're pretty good. 20-year loan,
What it's going to cost?
1%, 2%?
It's 2% loans,
Rough guess.
it's 2%, but the thing is, they don't have to do that over 20 years. That has to be determined whether they're gonna do it over 20 years, 10 years, however they choose to do it.
I'm just trying to get a grasp of
Okay.
how much a year,
It's,
roughly.
I did a
Again-
quick thing on it. It's
Yeah.
roughly around 178,000 if you did it for the 2% for 20 years, 178 and $700 or something like that. It was a little over 178,000 in interest if you did it 2% 20 years.
All right, go ahead, Marilyn.
I'm still missing 165,000, because I'm looking at the budget for the total repair of $1,165,000.
Actually, some of this is, it's the 165 is, some of this is coming out of Chapter 90 funds because I'm restoring the road part of the dam. And that's can't be done with this, it's gonna be separate. These two projects have to be separated. But that's gonna be, use Chapter 90's funds to do the roadway work.
That was the 165 I was looking for. All right.
All right, yeah, so
Okay.
the
Any other
total
questions?
project.
Total projects, 1,165.
I do. When Tremont Nail goes on fire, you break the
Okay,
dam.
okay.
Put it out.
I'll
Edit, please.
I need a motion and a second.
I move favorable action to pass this forward for CPA funding request not to exceed $835,005 for repairs on the Parker Mills Pond Dam.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstain? I think that might actually be a 900. Okay, you're
right.
done.
Thank you very much.
Oh, let me see if I've got everything.
That's the same day as...
I never knew it was called the Parker
Dave,
Tremont Dam.
Dave,
That's crazy.
Mr. Menard or Mr.
Mr.
Sullivan?
Menard, you want these? Thank you, sir.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
All right, let's go on. In your package, you've got a town meeting schedule, dates to remember. So please go into your packets.
What do we have? Dates to remember. This thing?
I know there's a calendar behind it. Sorry. And on the calendar, Kelly has graciously wrote the last day for different things. Like, if you're going to February, because we're almost there, on the 14th is the last day to submit articles and petition articles.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yep, and then on the 18th, the Board of Selectmen closes the warrant, and we get the warrant on Wednesday, the 19th. I know everybody's real excited. So from that time until we have to vote on the April 9th is the last day for the Finance Committee to vote on any articles, so we'll have to review all the articles. They'll either have to come for the committee, and again, with everything else we have to do, this is going to be a lot of fun. And then we have to have all the recommendations. And last year, I think we didn't have as many people writing recommendations, but we're going to have to really have everybody writing recommendations, because there's, my understanding at this point, there's 30 articles. More or less.
We're gonna pull out the revolving funds and lump them into one framework, so that will be one article, so that'll be reduced down a little bit.
Okay.
Pulling those out.
All right. So then we'll have to get those in. Then the warrant is printed, and town meeting's on the 28th. We also have to have a public hearing on the warrant, but I don't know when we're going to schedule that yet. I'd like to at least have a little bit of time. We'll figure that one out in March. It'll have to be in March. Or, yeah, probably going to have to be in March. Any questions on the dates? I know that we're going to do something similar. This is what we hope to do this time, is that we'll get involved in writing the motions, and we'll have one person read the motion, which I think worked pretty well at last town meeting. And then, but we may have, well, I'm hoping to have one person read the advice, but it just depends. If it goes over 2 days, we may end up switching a person to have read on the second day or something like that. So we'll play that one by ear.
Oh, I will definitely have to have a backup with 30 articles. You know I'm out on Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll figure that out, who's going to do what on that one. Any questions on that? Now we need a town administrator for the town administrator report.
Hey, Derek.
Well, let me preface by saying that if you weren't around yesterday, and I know that some people had other commitments, that we had a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the school committee to discuss the budget. And I think I'll recap what I can later, but we want to get Derek in here, get all the stuff he has to do, and then we'll move on to our discussion. Mr. Sullivan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, there was one in his packet.
The first item that we are going over is the DOR request to reduce the 2014 budget by $500,000. Per the request of the Board of Selectmen, next week we'll have I guess there'll be a itemized list of where the reductions have occurred. We are currently at approximately $250,000 of the $500,000 goal, including some savings from the unemployment lines. And going through some of the departments. So,
Questions? Yes.
Okay, so
I
at
know
this,
you want to ask something. I saw that hand go up real quick.
so at this point, you have figured out a way to save $250,000, or the Board of Selectmen and yourself. What are you going to be looking at next, Derek? What's the next? Are you going to go line by line through everybody's budget
I
And-
don't have anything available from the town side, and most likely as things occur, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's okay.
It's, that 250 could be reduced to what we can actually put towards it, so. We are tapped out. Or in fact, we're going to have to request some additional funds soon, so.
And these can't be rolled over to this next one, these have to be done by April when you balance the 2014, when you,
The 2014 budget is balanced. We've had a request from the Department of Revenue to reduce this budget by 500,000, a goal of $500,000, because there was concern about the revenue. But we're going to have the revenue report next week for the midway point, and we'll be able to see where we stand. So one of probably the more important items is going to be when we get free cash certified to see where the number's at. We are most likely, the Department of Revenue is not promising us a time frame. They are going through extra steps and lengths. Obviously, they're concerned, or there wouldn't be this $500,000 goal of reduction. But I would hope to get this during the month of February.
So if the revenue projections come in on target, will they say, fine, you don't have to go
No.
with the whole 500,000? No. So we just have to wait and see how it pans out through the entire fiscal year.
Yeah, we're going to have to go through all those. And again, it's been a vote of the Board of Selectmen, so we're aiming for the target. I have sent a memo to the superintendent requesting help on reaching that goal.
And no response yet.
I wouldn't say no response. We've spoken about it and such, but their budget's also different than ours. We vote one lump sum for them from the non-net and one for the net, whereas from the town side, we actually have to target from departments because of the way we vote it. So.
Okay?
Tax rate update. We had certified the tax rate in December. However, we'd received a letter from the Department of Revenue, and Mr. Chair, I think that was forwarded to.
I might have.
If not, we can get that to the committee. You'll see that that there will be certain specifications of what we have to do to get the FY15 tax rate set. So you'll see part of this all grows upon itself. You know, we're clearly looking to reach the $500,000 goal. If we were speaking to Department of Revenue and said there's no way we can reach this goal, and next year we're trying to get the tax rate set, it's not going to be effective. We need to show them the effort that we're putting forth to be a stable community. So this is where we stand. I think the letter had expressed that free cash will need to be certified before the tax rate set, which means we'll need to have the auditors in earlier, which means that in most likely in spring we will have the auditors in again to start setting it up. The Department of Revenue we're going to have again in probably, I would say, late February to early March to start going over setting up the budget for FY15 and the revenues, and make sure everything that we're putting down is acceptable to the Department of Revenue. Because when it's the 11th hour, and we'll call that time from November through December, unless you're calling it a special town meeting, there is no way to make changes to the budget. So.
I don't just comment. This is nothing new for them. They have been asking us to get our house in order and get those things done ahead of time for quite some time now. I thought that we were doing better with our audit coming in and things like that, but obviously they're cracking the whip and they want us to do it now.
Yeah. There's we should be receiving the draft management letter very soon. We'll forward that to the audit committee and see where we stand with it. there's going to be, if you remember, we received the last audit late as well, so we're probably, the changes we've implemented, I believe we'll see within the, you'll have the audit findings on there. I believe there will be notes listed that as of when they've done it, there's been changes implemented, but we've not resolved every single problem. They're still going to be out there. And there's problems that I want to have resolved that probably are going to be listed as management letter findings. So I don't want anyone to think that we're getting some thin, rosy document. And part of that's why you hire auditors. They are not, they're not our friends by any stretch. You don't want to speak to them. You want them in and out. And the longer they're around and the more work there's being done, the more issues that are going to be found.
Free cash update? Is that it?
Yeah, I think we'd get the free cash in around February. I'm not going to give any sort of estimate because ultimately it's going to be the Department of Revenue that's going to decide what the number is, or what they're finding acceptable in the balance sheets, and not. So, as long as there's a plus in front of it and not a minus, we will be on good solid ground.
I just want to remind you that we agreed last year that we would forego any budget number to fund a certain reserve number, and that number would come from free cash. So we can make your hair gray really quick if we don't get some free cash. I know, I'm just giving you a hard time.
No, I'm hoping for the number initially, or what I would say would bring forward is 50% of it goes to stabilization fund. That's also maybe even higher depending if we have a low amount of free cash. That's, in my view as well, that's part of also setting off some of that $500,000 reduction. We're putting money into the stabilization fund. Remember, one of the issues was that we did not have a high stabilization fund. We did not have a large amount of free cash. So there's sort of the three legs for it would be I'd recommend 50% to go into the stabilization fund, then the rest of that 50% be split up into capital, and then also allowed to roll over. So if there are any issues in the next year, we've already built in a buffer to whatever's happening. So if we have reduced revenues and such. So.
You want to cover that other item before we get into budgets? And I'm not sure if we covered unanticipated or what, the request.
Yes, thank you. If you remember at the town meeting, we moved approximately 22 or 24,000 from the assessor's salary side of the part-time assistant assessor to the reval account, and then I believe it was 89,000 from the sale of real estate that had a process to go through. I think it was moved to debt and then debt back to the reval line. So there was a total amount of money of $104,413 placed into the reval account. We know we've received the bids, and we know there's going to be $13,500 for data collection, $43,000 for the commercial, $73,000 for the residential. That's a total of $116 for the commercial and residential, and additional $13,500 for the data collection, so $129,500. The problem that we have is we cannot sign the contracts because we do not have enough money in the account. If we take the real estate, the residential and the commercial separately, we'll essentially be penalized by the high bidder. So the total cost for residential will then be $47,000, and commercial $47,000, and residential $79,000. So it'll cost $10,000 more. What I am requesting is that we move $22,000 from the reserve fund to the reval account, and then I also have an additional $3,087 from the assessor's budget line of expenses to be able to fully fund this. And this is for the triennial value reval. These are what we must do. We're in a bit of a pickle here because yes, I could just do the 73,000 and the 13,500, but in the end, it's going to cost the town an additional $10,000. So that's why I come before this this committee and see if at the next meeting we could request for the monies to be moved out of the reserve fund. There's currently 50,000 available in that fund. It would bring the balance down to 28,000. We moved 25 into the accounting, maybe a month ago, I think, maybe less than that. For the
This is an audit outside.
Balance sheets.
for the balance sheets. Now, if those funds are not used for getting the free cash, if not all of it's used, what I'd like to do at town meeting is transfer out of the accounting expenses and back into the reserve fund to have those monies set aside.
We can't vote on it tonight because
Correct.
it's not on the agenda, but just wanted to get it out there so next week we can vote on it.
Sounds like a shell game here.
I think it was a carrot.
It's accounting.
It's a
Accounting
carrot. You're
is
gonna
a
give
shell
us
game.
back if we-
All right, so that's cool. So, anybody have any?
It's
you want-
22,000 from the reserve fund.
Correct.
And what was the balance before the 2250?
50,000.
All right, we can discuss it next week when he comes in for a vote, but I just wanted to get it out there so we had time to think about it. All right, let's go on to the pink elephant in the room. You got anything for us? You didn't bring budgets?
Well, didn't everybody get one, Les?
There was only 4 of us there.
Oh my God! It seemed like there was so much
It's
more.
okay.
There.
Let me do a real quick.
You mean there's a revision already?
Yes.
Yep.
Let me do a recap real
Yeah.
fast, and then we can start talking. Last night, they handed out a revised budget number 3, I believe it was. And we'll, I don't know who got them last night, but I will make sure you get one electronically, because I can scan and send it. I got one, but I'll make sure you get one electronically, because Mr. Sullivan will send one to me electronically, and you can have it.
Sure.
But the number
There's a chase?
that we had, which was 2.5 something, is now 2.908525.
I was wondering why the paper was saying 9,000.
All right, everybody pay attention.
It's 3, one gave us last night.
It's $2,908,525. It's gone up, and Mr. Sullivan will explain it to you, but I just wanted to tell you, he will send me a copy electronically, probably tonight or tomorrow, and then I will forward it on to you so that you have a copy. So onward, Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah, I think I heard the question, what happened, and the simple answer is the governor happened. The cherry sheets came out, the state aid was a little bit less than we'd projected.
Nice.
However, the assessments were substantially more than we had anticipated. Approximately, I think that was well over $300,000
Yeah, I see
more
that right there.
on the assessments, and that was for I think it was the sending, the school sending and such. So
For the school, the assessment for the school?
yeah, if you look,
It goes down into tuition assessment. Those are the 2 big items that went up. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, that's 2.
We'll get the copies tomorrow. I'll make sure you have them. So
It's 2.9.
I have a little recap I did too. So and if I'd thought about it, we should have just took copies last night, but we just
Yeah, I
didn't. So
didn't.
my apologies. All right. You want to say anything else to us about the budget? Before
actually on that,
Oh, look, you might have some.
yeah,
How nice.
I was just making everybody sweat for a moment.
And you got the cherry sheet page
How
too?
many? I do have some of the cherry sheets too, yes.
Okay,
And then I also have the 10-year snapshot.
yeah.
That's, I don't think that's, I'll leave that out for anybody. How many people are missing the document currently?
How many people don't have the budget? 1, 2, 3.
4? Okay, well,
Yeah, no, I did, okay.
Yeah, 4 and
Okay,
5.
you guys got it, both hands, not the same, go, right again.
Oh.
Okay, good.
Okay, well, there's still gonna have to be some sharing, I'm gonna give a copy of my budget.
No, I'm all right.
Let me see if I got an extra one in here, I sometimes have them.
May I get your issues now?
Oh, you can shoot them down there. Sure.
I'm reading off of his, so. You got one?
No,
I got it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, this is what he's talking about. See here. This was the and that was, yeah. So this is what he had put in there, 2.5, and it's now 2.8, so it's like $300,000.
I have an extra copy, but it's just the budget. That's okay, we'll do this. Like I said, send me one electronically, and I'll make sure everybody has it. Do you wanna go over? Sorry. Do you wanna go over it? What,
Let me,
the changes?
yeah, I'm just gonna pull this up real quick.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute, I just wanna get him out of the way. You know,
I got a copy of this here.
okay, so everybody got a copy in front of them or sharing with their neighbor?
I just made the changes.
Okay, go ahead, Eric.
After earlier conversations, we felt sharing would be nice with them.
Okay, it brings us closer together as a committee.
Team FinCom.
Insurance.
So if you go through it, and when you're seeing, really the main changes were on the aid that we'd received, the Chapter 70. We had a little bit of change in the unrestricted general government. But going through that, it was really, when you went to the final page 6, you'll see the county and state assessments are at 2.8 million. I believe we had anticipated a roughly 3 to 4% increase on that, not the 18 to 20% that happened. You know, so I think, do we want to run through the whole budget, or is there, I think, there seemed
Well, I
to,
think we're gonna run through the whole budget.
Yeah.
You look tired, and you just wanted, if there's anything you wanna add before we, dismiss you, if you will, so you can go home.
the one thing I want everybody to see in this is our health insurance cost is higher than what the 7.1 is projected, but don't forget that now with the way we're changing it, and not doing the fee or the revenue from the water pollution control. It is now the water pollution control paying that directly. So this number, the 7.1 million, also reflects that the water pollution control facility is going to be covering, approximately, I believe, 358,000 of that, I believe, is the number. So, if you see that the insurance has gone down a little bit, it hasn't. We're actually, with there's the other item is that this will be the second year that the changes in the employee health care splits is going to happen, where the employees are going to pick up an additional 2.5%. So now, over this year, the employees will be paying for their family plan roughly $1,500 more than they had in the past, and if you're in an individual plan, roughly $700 more than the past. So while that doesn't seem like a lot of money out of a $60 million budget, it for the 6 years of what we've done, the splits will equal $4.5 million. So out of the employees' pockets are coming back $4.5 million.
What are those splits now? What will be the splits on this?
They were 75-25 in FY13. FY14 they moved to 70-30, and in FY15 they will be 67.5, 32.5, and that will last for approximately, that will be FY15, 16, 17, 18, I believe 19.
And that's contractual, are you telling me? That's 67.32, they're paying 32, we're paying 67?
67.5, 32.5, yes.
So So the town's paying 67 and a half, and they're paying 32 and a half?
Yes.
And that's for the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years?
For 6 years total. This is FY14 is the first year.
Tom?
Is that to include the school?
Yes. The school, when we went through the process, we moved to the, we accepted the, well, so I'm not going to give you the Mass General laws on it, but we accepted the, what's called Section 19 on there, and it became a public employees for the commission there, basically, and you needed a weighted vote to get this passed. So without the school teachers, who are by far the largest group, union group we have, this would not have passed. So they were a strong part of making sure that this worked and saving the town money.
That's good. And new employees are at what level?
Yeah, they're the same. So.
Dead silence. Any questions other?
I'm just sorry, Mike, I just got ill, it's okay.
That's okay.
I'm containing myself and my
You're
sadness.
just getting sick now. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Marilyn.
Yeah, I've had a whole day to be sick about it, Bonnie. It doesn't get any better. I'm just confirming, Derek, and I know we'll be discussing this more later, but the water pollution control facility, the only thing that is in this budget that represents, that comes out of that, are the employee health insurance costs and the fringe, FICA, Medicare, workers' comp, and retirement.
So you'll see that those are not, those are paid directly by the water pollution control facility
Okay.
now.
So we're still not assessing them. We still haven't got our arms around how we're going to assess for other town services.
Right, so when you look at it, so with the legal, so legal does work for the water pollution control. The Labor Council does work for the water pollution control. I have meetings on there. The Treasurer Collector's Office does collections for them.
None of that's
assessing.
being charged to them at this point.
That's
Okay,
correct.
thanks.
And that's one of the things we are looking at from the Department of Revenue to see from their management report on it.
And one other question, and I should know the answer to this, but I couldn't get my head around it. With regard to the districts, we don't get any payment in lieu of taxes from them.
We don't get any payment in lieu of taxes, but actually we do work for them, and we receive 1.5% of the levy base, which from each one, which is approximately $171,000 for doing all the assessing work we do. It also covers them as well. So some of the collection work for the bills as well, it covers them as well. So that's the agreement that has been worked out. As we are going to incur a substantially higher amount of costs for being in the triennial reval year, I'm going to send a letter to the districts requesting that the portion be raised for that year. Do I think that it has a fair shot? I don't know, but it's worth it to see if we can try and recoup some of those costs for the town, because again, we are doing the work that benefits them.
In what category? What do you call that?
That would be under the,
Miscellaneous, non?
yeah, that should be miscellaneous
Okay.
recurring.
I knew it was in there somewhere, I just couldn't. Thank you.
Any other questions? While they're pouring over the budget, let me recap the meeting before you go, Derek. So if I say anything wrong, I've got you and Marilyn here to chastise me. I think last night's meeting was more about getting a grip on the fact that we have a 2.9 million, I just call it 3 because what the heck. We have about a $3 million budget gap. To assume that we'll be able to cut that out of the budget is a little bit on the crazy side. It would technically, that 2 point, and I'll let Marilyn get into it a little bit later, but last year, one of the things Marilyn brought up, which is very appropriate, is over $800,000 last year we sat and watched the school committee and the Board of Selectmen hash it out for about 2 months to come up with $800,000 worth of cuts. And now we're talking 2.9. This will effectively shut down services in town and probably cost employees jobs on both sides of the equation if that's the way we're going. And the other option is to seek a revenue adjustment. That's my new term for it. I like it a lot. Revenue adjustment. But it's not an easy task, and we all know that as well. So because we're really nice people and we all work well together and share, I've volunteered us to do some framework. And what the basis for this is simply we're going to be able to present two budgets at town meeting. One is this is the worst case scenario. This is what happens when there's no extra money. Nobody wants the revenue adjustment. And that's what we're going to have. And I believe Mr. Sullivan and the school superintendent are working towards that. And we should have that maybe next week. Maybe just a preliminary or something.
Wow.
Well, you said Friday, so I'm just, I'm giving you a couple extra days because I like you.
Yeah,
Just a
we're,
preliminary, something, I know it's a difficult task, but we have till the 14th of February in which to put an article through, and I think that's a critical piece. So I'm not pushing you, and I can't do that. You don't work for us.
No, we're we're going to meet on Friday is what has been requested. So we're going to try and go through it. Obviously, there's going to be some items from the town that we're going to work through, see what can be taken out. But as we go through it, it's probably, if we're doing the cuts and such, they are going to be extreme. So it's going to try and, really the hard part is going to try and give an explanation of what the loss is, because you try and look at how do you quantify what that's going to represent. That's our goal.
At least we'll have the balanced budget, and we'll be able to look at the line items. We don't need a lot of in-depth explanation at that point, because I think that's going to take a lot more time than what you're talking about. Yes.
Excuse me, and Derek, when you're doing that, and I can just ask you to just jot it down as a side, I don't need it in any kind of fancy form, just bulleted points of what we've already lost. Because my point is, we've already cut this budget. This is not an adequate budget to start with, so I need to show we have the numbers over 10 years, but we don't have the positions or the services that we've already kicked out. So just a quick note on that, I'd appreciate, from the school side as well.
And if it's easier to do it over a couple years, that's a lot better, because I don't think it's virtually impossible to go back with the changes we've had in this town over the last 10 years to come up with anything
No, just what we
reasonable.
no longer have, what we've already cut up to this point, that we no longer have the ability to cut recreation, that's gone. We don't have municipal trash disposal, that's gone. We've already cut all these things. So I just want people to remember, these cuts have been coming over the years. So we've been cutting.
Hold on a minute before you get in there. So we're going to be looking at two budgets, and I got the sense from around the table, with the exception of a couple of people, that at this point in time we need to give it a hard look and look at a revenue adjustment for the town, because clearly, I've heard so many times people compare us to Bourne and how well Bourne's doing. Well, in 1990, Bourne had, what, 3 overrides, because they saw this problem. They saw the 2.5 prop for what it was, and and they did it. So that's why they're in better shape now. And again, we'll get to the little straw poll we're going to do here in a minute. But to me, I think we either need to fix it this year, because even if we cut 2.9 out of the budget this year, next year we're going to cut just as much out of the budget, because it's going to continue to go in this trend. And I'll explain that to you with a little later. It's not going to go away unless we look at increasing the revenue in this town. Otherwise, I don't know how many years we're away from receivership, but it's coming. And I promise you, that's not where you want to be. So,
I think if I can, I'm sorry to interrupt. The interesting thing was, when people look back to what Bourne did in the 90s, I think it was about, let's call it $3.25 million was the total value during that time. The value of those overrides now, with 2.5 every year, is approximately $6 million. So Yeah, that's obviously they've got some excellent management and have done some great work over there. So it's not just that, but you compare what we might be able to do for the community with some extra funds. It's going to be interesting.
And I don't want anybody to think we're just dying on the, I mean, we're dying on the vine if we don't do something, but we also have revenue that will be coming online in the next couple of years too that will help. So it's a matter of not just, we're looking at this budget this year, but we're looking at it with an eye for 5 years, because I think you can't go out to the people and expect them to support any type of revenue adjustment without first giving them a kind of plan that shows us coming out of this. It's a matter of, repairing the damage and then preparing for the future. So, it's not something we say, oh, great, we got whatever it is, call it $3 million. We got $3 million, we're good to go for another year. It has to be something a little more substantial. What are we going to do to fix the problem so it doesn't come back again? And so, there's other things. This budget doesn't include capital. We're going to have a visit next week from the capital planning, because I think it's critical that we look at our infrastructure and fixing that as well. We neglected it for around 10 years, and you see the damage, and you don't have to be a rocket science to go out and look at some of the buildings and look at some of the things we're having to fix because we did not do the preventive maintenance or we didn't prepare for this. So we are not responsible for making the decisions, but I think we should be part of the framework to build it, because I think that's what this committee can do. Marilyn, you want to say something before
You want to let Derek go home?
Derek, go home.
No, I have a question. first.
Okay.
Don has a question first.
Derek, I don't know if this is feasible or not. Both of our water districts are in tremendous shape in their books.
We'll take that afterwards.
Yeah, we'll handle that.
We'll speak
It's
to
not
that
something.
afterwards.
It's not something that the town can get from. Can get help on that. No.
Okay, let me do this best I can. There was a comment made last night about pots of money everywhere. I think if you talk to the district, that most of the money that they have is earmarked for projects going forward. It's not like they have a lot of money, but we're not their responsibility. And we're not, if you think that we're going to go out and get $2.9 million from them,
John, beyond that, let me just explain. They're actually separate entities.
I know
Le-
exactly.
Separate legal, so.
They shouldn't be, but they are.
Okay, so first of all, we're the wrong audience to be speaking to. If we want to combine them, we have to go to the districts. And we are the districts too, if you pay water in a district, so we are voters there. So we need to get people to go to the districts and force it from the district end. It can't come from the town, it has to come from the district voters pushing towards the town. You see what I'm saying? The town can't say, we want to absorb you. The districts have to vote it that way. We can say it, but it doesn't mean
I'm not even
anything.
saying absorb it.
We have no clout.
Larry's saying that, it's all earmarked for projects. Okay, so put some projects on hold. If the district is the town, they are the town.
The district is the no, they're not. The districts are supported by the taxpayers of the town, but they are not part of the town. So if you think about it, ABC is supported by the taxpayers of the town, and we pay our rubbish disposal fee. Target is supported by the taxpayers of the town.
It's a little different than that.
It is a little different than that,
It's
but
a lot different than that.
but there's
I'm
no
just saying I didn't know if there
legal-
was any way that we, any way that we can get revenue from them to get us out of this. That's what I'm looking at.
Claire can speak to that.
last night,
I wish I was there, but that's okay.
Okay.
I
Well-
apologize for not
One of the
being
Board of Selectmen had you covered, because this was a big discussion
this was a
there.
big
And it should
discussion,
be.
and it's,
Have
no,
you
it
gone
should not be.
Okay, have you gone over the books of the water districts?
It doesn't matter. Okay, well, let me try it another way. We don't have the right to go over the books of the water district.
The water
We are the town of Wareham. We're not one of the districts. We
They
can't
supply
force
our
them.
water, their land is in our they
Okay.
don't pay taxes on their land. Don't get me started.
All I'm telling you is, you can talk
This is
about.
good discussion, Dawn, because a lot of people feel this way. So everyone
I-
needs to
there's a
know what
lot.
the arguments are. We've got to get this out and understand, we can't get that money. Not this way, not from this angle. The answer is no. But Claire may add something to it that's
I think it's difficult for people who haven't lived in the community for numbers of years to understand where the districts came from. The fire districts were created back onset in the late 1800 by private business owners. So they are technically a private business that was created by taxpayers and created by the legislature. So they are created by the legislature, and the only way you can undo that is for the Mass State Legislature to undo it, which would require each of the districts to submit a petition to the legislator to dissolve their districts. And then the town would have to create a water, fire, sewer department.
Okay, that's, you know what, Claire, that's all well and good. The water that they're getting is town land, district might own it, it's under the town of Wareham.
They buy their own property and they
And
purchase
you don't
their
believe
own.
that the water under Wareham is not a resource of the town, or shouldn't be resource of the town, the revenue coming from the town land, or maybe it's owned
not
by the
town-owned.
district.
It's
under-
private
I don't want-
land
it's a
owned
long-
by
it's a-
themselves.
But he makes a good point. They
He
also,
does make a good
they also don't pay
My house
taxes
is,
for
so
the
they don't
land
pay
that
taxes
they
on the
use.
land.
That's
The
why-
water's underneath the
That's-
town, it needs the money that they're charging the people of the town to use the water that sits under the land of the town.
Okay,
Think about
and
that.
all that's
It makes a
great,
lot of sense.
but that's not going to solve this
I know
problem.
It's not gonna
I
solve it,
just asked
but
a
it is a
simple question.
very
If
sore
it-
spot with a lot of people
If
in
there was
this
a way that
town.
we could get money to help us out, obviously,
It's not going to happen.
okay. I
And-
end my question, I'm sorry.
And if it's not going to happen, then that's not an option.
I'll end that. But they were smart people who did those districts. I read all that about all that. There were some sharp people.
They were.
They gave it to the town good.
History of it.
I read
There's
all
actually
that.
a written
Yeah.
history
Can I ask
of
a
who
like a
did it
relevant
and
question?
why.
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be irrelevant tonight, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I was, Jim. I'll wait till Derek's done.
We're going to let Mr. Sullivan go home, and we're just going to, I'm going to try to get as many, we need to try to get an idea of, what do you think? I mean, we're looking, so let me lay it out simple, and then I'll hand it over to Marilyn, because frankly, I'm tired of talking about this.
I just have one question, as it's about timing.
Okay.
Okay, because we know how this works. First off, if you're going to give two budgets out and one gets presented, you're going to have to live with it. One gets passed, you've got to live with it. If the other one gets passed, you have to take a vote. And do we have time to do that between April town meeting and then call a special election before you get to pay your bills July 1st?
There is,
Is there time in there to arrange all that?
there is a way to do this. There's I believe one is called, that you can present two budgets,
You have a contingent budget.
contingent budget, and they're.
But it still requires a vote.
You would vote on both of them, and if
Right.
both passed, it's almost an if not this, then that. So you would pass let's call it the revenue adjustment budget,
Like how he said that.
and then you would pass also the contingent budget or balanced budget, and if the revenue adjustments were to fail, you still have a balanced budget.
Right, but that's what I'm asking. I mean, we've still got time between the last week of April to whenever we finish town meeting. Then we have to call a special election to put this on a ballot, and that can all get accomplished before you got to use your budget by July 1.
Could it potentially? Yes, it could
Okay.
potentially happen.
It's the second step's important too. It
Yeah.
has to go back to the selectmen to be allowed to be put on a special,
Right.
Right.
And
ballot.
that's where, time is of the essence.
Right, so, and we're working on a short time frame anyway. So what we're trying to do is the framework, and we'll get some information. I should talk closer to the mic, shouldn't I? Because I don't want to
I
get
think
yelled
we're
at.
done with Derek. Derek's going to follow.
Derek, you can go on home. We
Oh,
got this for now.
Telling him that. He just doesn't run fast.
He just,
Have a good
I
night.
see. All right.
Good night.
Thanks.
so next week, we're hoping to have the capital planning in here and some numbers from the school superintendent as well as the town administrator to give us what we like to call the option one budget, which is the balanced budget, with 2.9 out of it. And then the second part of that is with the information we have, and we should discuss it next week a lot more. What are we looking for? I don't believe in that operational override is the answer. I believe, operational revenue adjustment is the answer. I think we need to look a little bit beyond that. I think we need to look at the capital that's necessary. I think we need to look at, where are we going and what do we want from this, and before we put a figure out there for an article, or before there's an article put out there, we need to have a good grip on what the money is and how they're going to utilize it. And then that would be the article that would go out as the revenue adjustment. So we're not doing that part. We're just trying to gather the information, and hopefully next week we'll put something, after we get some more information, we should have enough to discuss it with the selectmen and the school committee. But please feel free. This is the point. Marilyn has some things to say, because she knows I'm shell-shocked today, so.
I think
Well, I want to explain this whole thing. I mean, you're
Okay.
talking a revenue adjustment to get to your 2.9 mil, right? That, to get to that.
No, I'm not talking about that. That's not a revenue adjustment.
Well, you're talking override. Let's stop dancing around the subject.
call it what
You're
you want.
talking override to get to $2.9 million for what he really needs.
I wouldn't actually support
I wouldn't
just that
support
number.
that.
Because it's got to be
Yes.
more, it can't be an operational override. We just can't take just enough money to get us through this year, because that doesn't solve the
Okay,
problem.
that's where I'm getting
We need-
confused with some
right,
areas.
yeah.
You're saying an operational override only gets you to $2.9
No, we
million.
need-
Is that what
We
you're saying?
don't need that.
But we
Okay.
also, let's be realistic, there are also going to have to be cuts that go in with that too, because I
Right.
don't think anybody in this town is going to accept an override that doesn't see cuts, which is why I also want to show them the cuts that we've already had to get to this point. Then we'll make these further cuts, and then you have to give me a light at the end of the tunnel. You have to let me know that if I'm going to vote for an override, you got a way out of this. You're going to start addressing the capital needs of this town, and you're going to show me where we're going to get further reductions further on down the line, and you're going to show me the revenues that are going to kick in and the debt service that falls off. So that's the whole big piece of the puzzle that tells me, all right, we're in a really tough place now, but 3 or 4 years, we're going to start looking better, and we're going to be able to start doing the kinds of things again that we need to do. And I need to see that. So that's what we're going to be working towards. So I don't have those numbers, but those are the numbers I kind of want to fill in myself.
That's
Is
the
that-
framework.
That's what we're talking about, so.
We need kid gloves to pull it off, and it take a lot of work to pull it off.
I appreciate that, but it was very interesting in the room last night, because we've heard for many, many years this town will never vote for an override. I mean, that's been religion in this town. And really, sadly, what we're going to present to them, and it's going to come across like it's scare tactics when we show them what the budget looks like with $2.9 million cut out of it. It's not scare tactics. That's what we will have to do if we don't get any more money. And hopefully people will just realize that's how it goes. So part of the dialogue that we need to have on this committee, and I don't think it's necessarily up to us to sell the override. I think it's up to us to be comfortable with it, to believe it, and to be able to be in favor of it. So we need to get all our doubts out on the table, all our concerns, all our questions now here, so we can address those and make sure it's a good plan. That's really what our job is. Is that okay? Does that seem to make sense?
And we'll just go around the table.
Because we've already addressed the issue of the districts, and Dom, not for nothing, but that was a big part of the conversation. There are a lot of people that feel that way, and sadly, the answer is no. The quick answer is no, we can't do that. That doesn't mean there aren't other ways that we can't work with the districts to find something,
Let's just put them out of business.
but
50,000 people in Wareham, it's
We all
$1,000, it's $1,000 to drill a well, you spend
was gonna say, we all-
$50,000, everybody drills their own well, and they can't sell any
Well-
water, and then they're out of business.
So
now,
let's,
let me make my other point, because
Okay.
Dom's
Now
right.
put them out of
Thank you.
business.
My other point is this whole exercise, and it will be for the Board of Selectmen and for the school committee, is brainstorming. So we're all going to say, I don't want to say silly things. We're all going to say silly, crazy things like drilling your own well. But it's okay to get those things out and say them, and I
You think
hope...
that's crazy?
There are neighborhoods that still have well water.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, I understand that.
Well,
But there's
but-
only 50,000 people in the town, right?
Just 20,000. 24, and how many households?
It's between $1,000 and $1,200 to drill a well.
I'm sorry, but you know, when my fire suppression system goes off, that well is gonna have a really hard time all by itself.
So I just want to get back to the rules of
don't have to
brainstorming,
do it,
and I
just
hope that, I hope this
Threaten
comes
them
out
to
to
do
the
it,
community.
baby.
I don't want anyone to start circulating rumors or hearing rumors that we've said we're going to make everybody in town drill a well and we're going to shut down the water
You can
departments.
quote me on it, I could care
And hit the-
less, you know that.
Caitlin quoted me on, we're going to close the library and the COA, but she was very good to say that was just an example that goes out there. There's going to be a lot of crazy examples put on the table, and that's how you brainstorm. You come up with what you think is a crazy example and say, oh, that would never work, but that may trigger someone else to come up with an idea of how about this, and we have to be able to answer all these questions and all the reservations that people have. One of the arguments that drives me crazy is my taxes are going to go up. Well, the values of your property are going to go up. I mean, people don't want the value of their property to go up because that means they'll pay more taxes. I'm not sure I can really follow that argument. Okay, the value of my property goes up, my taxes go up. Does that mean I never want to paint my house? Does that mean I want to use an outhouse out back? Does that mean I don't want any services? I want to go out and live in the backwoods like swamp people? No, we live in a community with real estate values. We need to keep those values. We need to keep it in the town property, and we need to keep it in the residents and businesses. So we need to argue that one out too. So what other reservations do we have overall for an override? Marilyn, you start.
What you just said is a double-edged sword, because I don't think your property values in some cases do go up. They see a 2.5 and they look at 2.5 as going in perpetuity. They see this 2.5 and then they think, oh, next year they're going to get it for another 2.5. You've got to make the argument that you're going to change, blow up the whole system and change it all and whatever, because you're not going to get people like in my neighborhood to do this. They're coming off an $18,000 betterment. They paid anywhere from $12,000 to $10,000 to hook up to that pipe. So those people are already 28 grand in the hole, and you're going to ask them to do a 2.5 override. You can call it a price adjustment. As far as they're concerned, arose by any other name, they're not going for it.
Okay.
I'm going to have to turn myself upside down and inside out to convince anybody of that in my neighborhood. And I'm sure Joan's the same way.
Absolutely.
We have a predominantly 55 and older community down there. They're on fixed incomes. At least 4 of the houses in my neighborhood, 2 of which have gone to foreclosure. The other 2 can't sell because people can go down the next street over. They can go past Marks Cove Road and not have a betterment. Or they can buy one of those McMansions on Cremisa Road that weren't told to hook up to the sewer. They certainly had a lot more money than the little 80-year-olds that I'm living around. I don't, you got a really big, I heard the meeting last night, and they didn't like the word sell it. You got to do more than sell it.
Okay. Point taken.
I don't think it's our job to sell it,
That's
but
what I'm saying. It's not our job to sell it.
It
Well,
isn't.
it's their
We need
job
have-
to
we need
sell
to
it
have-
then.
We need to be convinced.
But we need to
why.
know what the
it's
options
our
are.
job to be educated and give them the right information. I mean, what these options are, you know, people talk about, you know, if you increase the revenue, that other revenue will come along with it, that people will want to move into this town, businesses will want to move into this town. Those are maybes. Those are maybes. Those are hopefuls. I don't know how many of you read Mr. Paulson's diatribe this morning.
I tried to understand it.
I actually did understand it, and I adore Mr. Paulson.
Me too. What was
And
it? I didn't read it.
he did make a lot of sense. I mean, when you take a look at, what was this over here? $602,490 to send our children to other towns, okay? Do you hope that if you create a better education system, that more children will return to this town? Is that not necessarily a monetary thing back? Well, it is, because you don't have to pay for this, but it's still a what if. It's a maybe. You're not going to guarantee that. These are the things that you're going to have. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
No, we need
These are the
Yeah.
questions that people are going to ask. You can't guarantee me that I'm going to get any of this back. You know, you talked about Bourne and how they did things, and, you know, maybe they did have a little more foresight than I do, but they also have a heck of a lot more money than we did, even back then.
And that was the 90s. That's a lot different than what's
Okay.
going on right now.
Yeah, but again, this is what we're up against here.
And I understand.
And here's the downside, because I understand what both of you are saying, but the downside is, and we'll see it when we get the budget with the 2.9 out of it, the same people that will say, I'm not supporting an override, are going to say, where are my police? Why do I now have 30-minute response times? Because we don't have the money to get the response times you're looking for.
Exactly.
And if you think it's bad now with school choice, if we take that much money out of the schools, it's going to get bigger. So this is the problem, that if we cut the money out of the budget, it's going to continue to get worse until the state comes in. And from what I'm gathering, and this is from several discussions, you're not going to like it, I promise you, because they don't give us the choice of what we want to do at that point. They tell us what they're going to do. And if they decide that we need a tax increase, or they decide to do something along that line for it, they'll do it, and we don't get to vote on it. And I'm not wrong on this, but you know that they dictate, and if they decide none of the committees, none of the board of selectmen, we don't get to decide our future any longer. At that point, they decide for us, and so we're kind of in that middle section where you want to cut the 2.9 out, and people don't want to support an override, and I understand that, because there's fixed incomes, because there's other money going out for different things. But if we don't, and this continues, you're still going to get it down the line when they come in and we get into receivership. You're still going to do it, but you're not going to get a choice at that point. Plus, your property values are going to go down, because as people don't have the services and we send more kids out to school choice, we're just going in a downward spiral. So from my standpoint, and you know, I have a daughter in school, so I'm sure not everybody here has a child in the school, but at the same time, I live in this town. I pay my taxes like everybody else, and if my property value keeps dropping, it's very difficult for me to get out of this town, because then I have to sell my house at a loss. So I guess what I'm looking at is, do we want to pay the money now, or do we want to pay it later when we don't have a choice and it may be more, and then we're going to spend the next 5 years trying to get out from underneath that? So to me, it's not an easy choice, and
No,
I
it's
understand
not.
it's not an easy choice. But for me personally, if we don't do something, we're not going to get any better. We're going to beat our heads against the wall for the next 5 years as we continue to take another $2 million out to where all you got left is a town administrator and a superintendent, and she's doing classes and he's going out doing snow removal, because that's all you're going to have left at some point before it's taken over. So I'm sorry. I told you I wouldn't do that
I know,
tonight.
you
I
did
know
it.
I
That's
told
all right.
you I wouldn't do that tonight.
We opened ourselves up for it because I'm asking for the opposition. We need to know what the arguments
Wait,
against are, because.
Should we have done this first?
I don't know whether it's this. I don't think there's an opposition or an argument against it. I think at that point, as members of the Finance Committee, I think we have an obligation to present the alternative.
I agree.
Okay? In an open forum, well-documented, and the possibilities of what this means for Wareham's future for the next 5 years. If we can make it, if this can cause things to turn around, I think we have the obligation to do the research and present that information. That is what we are charged to do. I think what is going to be in the end result of our personal vote is personal, okay? And at that point, everybody, needs to rely on their own conscience on that. But we can't take a stand right away and say, we're not going to even think about this, or we're just going to leave it to the town administrator or whatever. We made a commitment last year to say that we would work in conjunction with the school committee and the Board of Selectmen for the best plan. And whether that's putting it all out on the table and presenting that, I think we have the obligation to do that.
We're actually the Finance Committee, not 9 people sitting up here.
That's correct.
And I agree with you. Thank you.
But I would like you to explain this thing to me, because I've been staring at it and I have no idea what it means.
What I did is, because I haven't done analysis work in years because, well, frankly, I have people that do analysis work for me now. But I went back and I looked at 13 to 15, and I took it and broke it down just to give you an idea. And if you need more explanation, we'll go through it. It shows under revenues, we had an increase in our local taxes. And that, if you look at the top page, you can see it. It's from about $2.5 million over that period, 13 through 15. And it's about a 7.5% increase. And then on the cherry sheets, that's the state part, they only went up $207,000, which is a 1.4% increase. So what you're seeing by the numbers right above it, the 60.6 to 63%, we are now shouldering more of the burden as the state shoulders less of the burden.
Gotcha.
But if you look at the overall picture of revenue, in the 2013 to 2015, we've gone up 3%. All right, in the second pages, what I tried to do is break this down into general areas, like the general government of the town actually over that period of time has gone down $659,000, or down 5.8%. The school district has gone up 1.1 million, which is about 4.1%. And what I did at last night's meeting, if you take, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Debt has gone up $274,000, which doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it's gone up actually 43% since 2013. The employee benefits have gone up $2.1 million, and that's about a 21.8% increase. And then the last page of the expenses, the Upper Cape and articles, and it's mostly Upper Cape, went up $580,000 from 2013, and that went up 20%. And then the offsets, which we talked about tonight, whatever they give us on the one side, they take away in the offsets, has gone up 34.3% and almost $1 million, $912,000. So our overall expenses since 2013 has gone up 4.4 million, or 8.1%. So clearly, our revenue at 3% and our overall expenses at 8.1, there's a disparity.
I'm just
5.1%.
I'm just looking at the difference between cherry sheets is only increased by 1.4%, but they're taking 34%.
So,
That is not even right.
So, but one of the interesting things is if you take the general government and the school and add them together, over that period of time, that represents 10% of the total increase in expenses. So the smallest amount of expenses, when you think about the $2.9 million, you're not going to be cutting in these other areas. You're going to be cutting in that little 10% section. So I put together a summary sheet that shows revenue growth. Yeah, we already did that part. And this is just the percentages on the back page, so everybody could take a look at them. It's not a complicated analysis. It's just something to give you a highlight. And if you look at the problem, once you get past general government and school district, the big numbers start happening. These are the numbers that are increasing, and these are numbers, there is a certain level of control over these numbers, but they're almost out of our control in a lot of cases. Offsets is going to continue to go up over and over as long as we have school choice and people want to leave our schools. Upper Cape's going to keep going up as long as they accept our children over there at Upper Cape. And that's a 5-town vote, 4-town vote. And if the other 3 towns accept it, we don't really have a choice. So in benefits,
benefits isn't
benefits is a big issue. There are some things that they're trying to do. One was they were trying to move to this thing called the Mayflower, which was the former Plymouth something, but right, and it would have been an overall savings like 5 years that was really good, but they require an upfront payment, I believe, of $1.6 million, which unfortunately in the town of Wareham, we don't have the 1.6. Now, we could recognize some savings, but we can't even give them the down payment to do that. So, this is the hole we're in. We can see the savings, but we can't even get to them. Debt is going to continue to increase if we do have any sort of override, because there's probably going to be some borrowing to do with the capital, but we have to repair our capital in this town. If you walk through the schools, you walk through these buildings, and again, we'll talk about it next week when capital planning comes in, but we have ignored our infrastructure for 10 years. We just haven't done it. So that's kind of an overview of where we're at. I know it's a real pretty picture, huh?
No, now I need a Zantac.
Yeah, well, we've been doing this for 2 days, so, and I've got a headache and I'm not feeling well anyway. So let's get, if anybody else want to weigh in on where we're at? Come on, Tom, I know you're dying to talk to us about this.
I mean, I just think we're just going down to the system, what with the organization, the structure we have is not as efficient as it could be as a town. And we've got an election year coming up, so that there's some biases and people covering their own particular situation. I think we need somebody to come in from the outside and review the whole structure of the town, and that includes the water districts and the fire departments, and compare it with their experience with other towns and other organizations, to stretch beyond the borders of Wareham, to see what we can do in sharing costs with our neighbors. And at that point, say we have an independent party, a disinterested party came in who are experienced in these things and looked at it and say, this is a more efficient way to use your revenue. And until you get that point, I'm not going to go to a person and say we need more when we're not. I don't feel we're doing a good job of spending with what we've got. So that's where I'm at.
Great idea, long term though. It's take too much time.
I don't disagree, but again, when you talk about the districts in Wareham, the issue is the districts have to agree to that, not just the town. And the cost of bringing in someone like that, we can't afford it right now. So-
I'm not even sure how you would find someone like that.
Oh, I'm sure there's people out there
Sure,
that exist.
let the
You know
DOR
what
come
about
in.
the districts
All
wrong?
done.
The districts are the same people who vote in town hall, vote in the districts.
Okay,
We need to
so-
change the mentality of their outlook towards it. The same people who vote at town meeting, vote in the districts.
Have you voted at the district election?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I go down to the district every meeting.
Okay.
And you know how many people are there? A dozen.
Yeah.
You're lucky.
We had less than that at the last one, so.
I'm just telling you.
Okay,
That's
but
what you
it's-
need. There's a lot of education that needs to be done about that. But that's for another day.
And while that's fine, and I do agree that if that's the way we want to go in the long term, we got to come up with a plan as a town or as a district, as whatever, to do that. But at this point, we're looking dead in the face of some real issues here. And we can't, I had someone tell me, well, we have revenue coming in. Well, we do have revenue coming in towards the end of 2015 and 16 from different things, but that's not enough revenue to cut this. And well, I will agree with this. And Tom and I never have had this discussion. We have experienced some poor management in this town. No names or anything, but we have seen some of the poorest management. We've made poor procurement decisions. We've made awful personnel decisions coming in and going out, and it's very difficult for people to trust that those are not going to continue. But that's where we are starting to see, I think we'll see a little continuity now. I think if we can address some of these management issues, which I think is, I said it last night, we have to have the people trust that they're doing the right thing, so that we need a 5-year plan that says, this is what we're going to do with this money, and this is how we're going to do it. And I believe regionalization is a big part of it. You can't go into town meeting promising this is going to happen, but these are the things we're investigating. I know that there are several discussions going on with, let's just call it regionalization for better terms of that. One of the issues that the DOR has with us is and we've had for years, is the credibility of accounting and the financials we get. Well, you can't lay that on the people as much as if you take a look at the system they're using. And some of the discussions we've had in this actual room with the CPA firms is that the system is not good, not working for us. So maybe that's an investment. I don't know how big it is. It may be $500,000. It may be $100,000. But if it's going to make their jobs easier and we can get more credibility in our numbers with the DOR and with the people in this town, and it makes their job easier, that's a capital investment I'm willing to look into. So there are several issues that we can discuss and you know, suggest going forward. But again, we're all going to be real tired by the end of this. So, but we need to get it done. I think this is our responsibility as a committee to lay the framework and work with the selectmen and do the best we can. But, you know, if anybody's dead set against it, then we need to get those issues out on the table.
Well, I'll hear from Jeff and Dave, too.
I think we should hear from Jeff.
Yeah, I just, yeah, I'm torn. I'm thinking about this all the time. You know, there's so many long-term needs and government is so slow to react, and the economy is so slow to react in order to make it a reality. We talk about just trying to put out a bid and it takes 2 years, or we try to talk about getting, you know, doing something with the districts, and you know, and one isn't guaranteed versus another. So we can't say that, oh, okay, if we get the override, this is what's going to happen. But I think the key is that whatever we do, as a finance committee, whatever we do is based in complete fact and honesty. And I don't think it's a good idea to get in the campaign mode, because that's a problem. I think if you know, if you could be relied on, like, again, it's probably a bad example, but the Office of Management and Budget, where you know, or the Congressional Budget Office, where you know, people go and they're supposed to be, you know, nonpartisan and whatever. But if we just deal with the facts of where things are going. And what the numbers are, and you have to be careful about when we put out comparisons and things like that, because there's always going to be the naysayers. There's always the people that are going to just pull stuff apart in rumors and what have you. You know, I was talking to everyone at work, you know, before I came down, and you know, how do we get so that the people want to keep their kids in the school system? How do we keep our property values from just going down? I mean, my life's investment is now my house. You know, as many, you know, and you know, I want to keep that. You know, on the face of it, I don't want my kids bullied. You know, I want, you know, if I could add. I'll throw it out there. If I could add double the police just to have people be respectful to one another and not, you know, honor everyone's property and rights, that, you know, I do it. You know, I think that's a huge issue. There's just so. The only thing I can say is, and I missed last night. I'm going to watch it, but. Is we stay truthful, you know, we stay out of the campaign mode, so to speak, but also we try to, and we're not necessarily the people to do this, to set up the framework of what we need to do in the future. We need to be working towards getting the districts under one umbrella. We have to, you know, work for security. People need to be safe in their homes, their property, at school, what have you. That you know, that has to be done. We have to have a capital program, and we have to admit the mistakes, which you've just done. And yeah, and so it's just honesty. My concern, and I'm not affected by that, is the sewerage and the betterments and been reading that. You know, if I'm one of those individuals, I don't know. That's awful tough for me to say that I can afford more taxes, you know, or adding more to my plate already. And how about the person that just did the Title V and now this, now you're paying for that, and then this comes through? I don't know. You know, it's in paddle. There's not an easy answer to all that. But anyway, that's just what. I think that if we put out the budget, we need to put it out as a this is what's going to happen. And not as a threat, and not, you know, what happens is, oh, all of a sudden some money freed up and we were able to not get rid of this person, and that, you've lost your credibility. This is what's going to happen. This is the budget. This is what we're honestly portraying. And that's the way it goes. And that's the key. And then, you know, maybe you don't get a passage this year. But maybe you've said exactly what's going to happen, and you see it again and again and again. The problem is, I don't know, you can't go back. While we're showing an example, we can't go back and give everyone 5th grade again, you know. And so what damage are we doing? I don't know. So it's depressing, and it keeps the pharmaceutical business busy, and I don't know. It's just
We can't take it personal as a finance committee. As a taxpayer in this town, we can. But as a finance committee, we have to do the best we can to present the 2 scenarios. And at that point in time, it's up to the people. It's up to the selectmen. But one thing I want you all to keep in mind, when you go to town meeting, you're not voting on the override. You're voting on allowing the override to go to the selectmen. And that is critical that everybody understands that. We're not voting for the override. When it comes time to vote for the override, you're going to do it on yourself in a booth, and none of us will be standing over your shoulder. But we are, if the override is on there, there's an article, then we are looking to pass that to the selectmen. So there's a big difference between voting for an override and voting on to allow it to go to the selectmen and go out to the general public. I just wanted to clear that up. But I agree 100% with Jeff, because it has to be honest. And I said before, I probably was called everything political activist and everything else in this town, and I am the farthest from it. I just want to do the right thing from a financial standpoint for this town. I don't care what Bonnie says about me.
You know I love you. Shut up.
Anybody want to comment any further? Because I know we're going to be tired, but I just...
Joan and David haven't said
Are we going to
anything.
start throwing things in the hat that
We can do that next week. I think you want to do it tonight?
No, I wanted Joan and David to make their
want-
comments.
Yeah, we want Joan and David first.
They haven't said anything yet.
pardon me?
David's not going to say anything. He's got a weapon under his
excuse me.
coat.
We have a serious problem in town. I think the first step is acknowledging that, and I think, at least at this board, and I think the selectmen and the town administrator have also acknowledged that. That's the first step. How we get out of it becomes very difficult. I think, you know, Tom's mentioned a number of extreme steps that we really should look at. How can we improve the way we do things? And that's something in the long term we have to address. Some of those are capital items. Some of the things like the accounting software that we're using is out of date. It's difficult to use. It doesn't give us the results we need. It causes some of our problems. That's a capital expenditure. We have buildings that need to be repaired. We have kids that need to be educated, and we have certain functions that the town provides, which are safety, schools, maintenance of the public ways. At the same time, we have to be cognizant of the fact that a lot of people can't afford paying more money, and we've got to address that also.
Yeah.
We have a tall mountain to climb.
Don't just look at me. I know you got lots to say.
I do, but at the same time,
Say it.
it's a severe crisis that we're in. How can we go from 800,000 last year in debt to, 3 million? What would happen next year? It would just get worse. So yes, there are a lot of things that need to be done, cuts to be made, departments probably to look at to cut their budgets, or not necessarily their budgets, but staff. It's just frightening. It's frightening that we could go like $2 million in debt in 1 year. Who was watching the hen house?
We didn't, that didn't, no, yeah.
It just didn't happen overnight.
That's not even the perspective. Yeah, it's not nobody wasn't watching it. It's not $2 million in debt. We needed the $2 million last year. We needed it then, and we didn't give it to them. We told
So
them they
this has
couldn't
been
have
going
it.
on for years?
2012.
I mean, when did it,
Let me try this. I know it happened before this, but in 2012, I sat in a seat right here with a board of selectmen. I won't go over their names just for the lack of, and I held up a 5-year plan that was given to us by the town administrator. Bonnie was there. I held it up and I said, you guys got an $8.9 million structural deficit. You need to be looking at this. Want to know what the answer was? Birds chirping. Not a word. Not a word out of any of them. And that happened when I was on the FinCom, and I know it happened
prior to
years
that-
before.
And Dom, I think you actually worked on it with Dan Cheever and Dick Paulson and came up with a 5-year projection back in 2005 or 2006, which showed the same kind of deficit. So anyone who has looked at the numbers with any kind of analysis for 10 years have been saying this. And that's part of the problem, because the town's been hearing, oh, we're poor, and yet we've always managed to make ends meet, because the administration never took steps to correct it back when they could have, should have, would have. And we've always said this has been pushed out a few times because we've had some one-time money that we were able to do, the great fiasco of the trust fund. If we hadn't taken the $1 million out of the trust fund, we would have been having this discussion last year or the year before. We've hit the wall, but it's been projected that we were going to hit the wall probably for 10 years. I'm going to guess that anyone who has sat on a finance committee, Patrick Tropiano was on the finance committee in 2001. He's now back on the Board of Selectmen. And he said, saw it coming in 2001. That's what when we talk about a structural deficit, Larry's numbers just showing the difference between revenues and expenses. This, between the 2 years that we were just looking at, we've been watching them grow. That disproportionate. So it was a train wreck bound to happen. And here it is now. So I think David said it. We know we're here. I think there's some long-term suggestions that have to be done, but that doesn't get us out of where we are right here. So it is a multi-prong approach. One step is the override, one step is reconfiguration, one step is throwing ourselves some regionalization, and further cuts. It's a lot of pieces are going to come together. So you can't just reject one without the other, or expect one to solve all the problems.
This is where, I've been going for the last couple of years of trying to say that this is where the leadership of the town needs to step forward and say, this is where we need our priorities, this is where we want our money to go. I don't believe in this issue with the Board of Selectmen saying that they hire the town administrator to make those decisions and then they'll let him know whether he's right or not. I don't think that he should do that. And they need to say at this point, these are the departments we're going to keep and these are the departments we're not going to have anymore, because that's what's going to happen with $2.9 million. We're not just talking jobs, we're talking whole departments.
I don't think it doesn't matter how much they want safety, it doesn't matter how much they want municipal maintenance. If you take $2.9 million, you're not going to have much of anything on the town side or the school side.
And actually, Bonnie, Derek said it very nicely last night. He presented this, he said, he showed the 2.9 number, and he looked at them and said, what do you want me to do?
That's what he said.
That's
Love it.
He did it beautifully. He said,
Love it.
What do you want me to do? And that was.
And
That's-
Larry took off his shirt and there was Superman there. He said, we're gonna solve it tomorrow night at the finance committee meeting.
and have we?
Let's
I was there.
is it okay?
No, I saw you.
And I
I
didn't
saw
take
you.
off my shirt, thank you.
And I have to stop calling, you have to stop calling this sewer enterprise fund a $5 million business,
It's a
because it's
seven.
now a $7 million
You
business.
got to talk to us?
If you don't mind, I mean, I can give you some historical background to where the town was years ago, because I sat on a 15-member committee that had to come up with a $3.8 million structural deficit. And you go back to what Marilyn was saying earlier, how were you able to do that? Well, back then, we had many more departments than we had. We used to have a visiting nurse. We used to have a public prosecutor. We used to have a tree department. And I can go on and on. We had a municipal maintenance of 54 men. I can go on and tell you the departments that got cut.
We used to have trash.
We had trash,
Pickup.
but it was private trash pickup. And that only went for a sake of $3,000. But that's, you know, it's cyclical. And I mean, we have passed a debt exclusion at one point in time to do a new school. So it's doable. I mean, these things are cyclical that happen to all towns, but right now, there is nothing left to cut. As I said, back then, to reduce that $3.8 million debt, we lost department after department after department. The police department at that time had something like 78 men, plus a summer contingency of 34 men, plus a reserve of 27 men. And that was only with a population of around 10,000 people in town.
But you didn't have any technology back then, so we can,
Yeah. You know, so, I mean, back then, you had so much more available that you could cut, and it got cut. And we lost a lot, a lot. We had lifeguards. We had a recreation department. But you could go back and look in an old town report, say, from the late 1970s, and you look and see what this town had with a population of 10 to 12,000 people. And then we got into the 80s, and we ended up with a $3.8 million deficit, and that all went. And now we're at the point we don't have that to cut anymore. There's nothing left.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing left.
Thank you for making it more depressing than it was a minute ago, but, so this is.
we
this-
thought you were going to tell us where that pot of money was hidden.
Yeah,
Let me see. If you went,
We can't even afford to buy metal detectors to go out to the
No,
beach
no.
to get the money out.
no,
So-
and we had a 15-member committee working on trying to cut and make those cuts. They had a 15-member committee. We had a public prosecutor.
yeah, there we go. I understood
Yeah.
at that time. First time I was a little iffy on what you said.
So, yeah, you're in a very difficult position, but the town has been in that position before. But we had things and resources.
I've been finding a magic bean lately. I mean,
I don't know what the
Exactly.
political climate was back then, but that has really played a part in where we're at now as far as going to the people, because you have it's still there. I hate it because, you know, I've seen people come to the middle, but the reality is there are people that want us to fail. There are people that want us to succeed. And how we approach this, it shouldn't be like that. We should be able to go out and tell the truth. These are the facts. And I've said to the selectmen, I think you need to go out and do a big mea culpa. I think you got to go out and say, for the last 10 years, we have certainly done a poor job of managing this town, and we're going to do better, and here's how. That's something they're going to have to do, not us. That's not our job. But I agree. There's nothing
Yeah,
left. and
it's
a
very
scary
difficult.
time.
And actually, when I sat on the Public Safety Building Committee in 1995, we went for an override question, which absolutely passed unanimously at town meeting. Failed miserably at the ballot. So, and you have to look at, too, that if, you know, if you're talking, and when Proposition came into play, it came in with that provision. The state realized that towns weren't going to be able to live under Proposition 2, and that's why they built in the override and debt exclusion portion of it, to give the town an out in a way to fix that if they couldn't live within the 2.5. I mean, that was put in there intentionally for that reason. They knew that at some point towns would not be able to live in it, so they gave you that mechanism to use. So that was all thought out way back then.
I have like a dumb question.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to, I'd like some information from Derek, because my mind got taken away over here.
Okay.
And one of the, yeah, I know those. One of the things I don't have are the prior year actuals from the water pollution control facility, okay? I mean, I have it back here as far as what was the totals, but not the budget line numbers. And, you know, whatever happened to the unpaid balances that got thrown over to the town?
That's going to be for next week.
Okay, I would like to know if
I'll
that is
heads
in,
up him.
if that is hidden within this $7.1 million, I'd really like to know that.
No, but there were some things that, in the past, when you vote on the budget, there's only 2 line items for the water pollution
I
control.
understand that.
So what we've decided this year is we want to put in the appendix the actual revenue and the actual thing, because people, when they vote on those two numbers, they don't know what those numbers are. But during the process, when we talked about last year, we found out there were some things that were in the revenue side that weren't exactly what we thought should be there. So that's, the Department of Revenue is now looking at that, as well as the auditor, to tell us, to give us a ruling. But I think it's something we can get into next week.
Well, I would just like to answer that question.
Next year,
And,
last year's, right?
Yeah, last year's, because if those excess unpaid funds are not, where are they represented in? Because they had to get paid from somewhere, and I'm thinking they're stuck in the principal on debt, and if they are, that's pretty big.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
and they're
ask.
going to be more.
Okay.
I'm just
Are you
curious.
talking about the abatements they're doing?
Yes, not just the abatements, but the freeze on the, they were capped. Everybody was charged 25,
Okay,
they
you're
only had to
talking-
pay 18.
You're talking about retained earnings now.
Right.
Right, well, okay.
But
there's-
those loans had to be paid for the services provided, so there was money unpaid. What happened to
well,
that debt?
That's what they're doing now with the audit, so we'll have to wait till the end of that.
Oh,
because-
okay.
Because now you're looking at the difference between unrestricted and restricted retained earnings. You're looking at a 20-year note, and what they're trying to do is determine, are we properly funded to pay off the notes? Because that's what you're really talking
Right.
about. So that's where when we get that from them, then we'll have the answer to that one. But as far
Well,
as
it's
the
just something
abatements,
to tuck in
I'm
the
not
back
sure,
here.
because that should be a reduction of the revenue, an offset for the revenue. But I'll ask him about it.
I understand that, but when he's projecting out his budget, okay, to continue operations there, those debts have to be paid. We have already put those loans out there to have that work done. So if we didn't collect on those debts, and there are no intentions of collecting that money, that has to be represented somewhere. Somebody's got to pay for this.
It will be.
All the other sewer people are gonna pay for it, that's
It
what's
will
the
be in
problem
the
with it.
retained earnings, but that's something through the audit that they're going to be able to address, because I agree with you, that's never really been looked at properly. But when they did the cap, there's a difference between what we were
Yep.
actually, so I understand that. And as far as the ones, what you're talking about as far as abatements of actually EDU abatements,
Well, no, I'm not talking EDU. I'm
we're just
talking
going-
about
She's
projects
There's
that
shortfall
haven't
in the
been
projects.
done.
that, I
Okay,
understand
they
that.
cost 25,000 a house, they only paid 18.
I understand, but.
So where's the rest of the 7? Everyone else is gonna pay for it.
But
Whatever it was,
when the
whatever
audit
difference
comes out,
it is.
we'll know what the shortfall is, if there is a shortfall, because you're also building interest. Some of these people have paid up front, so they've used some of that money maybe to pay, we'll talk about it next week. It's a
Well,
long
that's what I'm
conversation.
saying. If it's a point of, I want to see the actuals from the prior years.
like to too.
On what he budgeted out here. I know he's working with a little different system, and he's got a better handle on it. But, it's 2.6 million. I want to know what his debt, what is he covering debt on principal here?
We'll do that in a minute. All right, yeah, we can.
Say it, so.
It's just something we need to keep in the back of our
understand.
mind and track, because that's going to come up eventually.
It's gonna come up as soon as we get the audit report
Yes.
on that, so that, yes.
All right, the one part of the budget that I know less about this year than last year is the school department. I know what they're doing, but last year we got into transportation costs, we got into books, we got into.
It's all on their website,
Technician.
all their breakdown. They-
The break,
I
yeah,
understand that, but what are they doing, and what have they looked at and decided they couldn't do?
didn't they kind of go over that the other night, to a certain degree?
Well, I mean, last year, for instance, one of the big savings was gonna be, kids, no high school busing and nobody within a mile or whatever. And they were right up until September that was gonna happen, and then they folded on it.
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
I would like to
Well,
understand.
they're closing one school and they're shifting
No, I
grades, so
understand,
that's the
I
big
understand
plan.
the
I understand what
16
you're saying,
people
but-
and that, but they have not shown us what the payoff has been from they've got one class that's running, where the course is done at night and they come in during the day. It's one of those upside down programs.
I think, I
And
think
what
we
are they
can
doing
invite
to
them in.
improve the efficiency and of getting these kids more competent?
I don't think they're doing the all-day sessions this year like they did.
They're not. They
But
haven't.
we should invite them in or have a conversation with them and maybe get our questions out. And believe it or not, they will come back to you with answers.
Yeah,
So-
they've got to defend their budget better than, and it may be very defensible, but I haven't seen it.
Again, I agree. So we'll invite them in for a conversation and then get the questions out to them, and I think you'll see them respond very quickly.
And the other thing is, I think we got to have sort of a Simpson Bowles thing, and we've got to come up with a series of recommendations
They're
of
coming to do my lunch.
what we should do.
Where's the function capacity?
We shouldn't have any problem throwing up, but,
Now, we'll have several suggestions, but I think in the end, we're.
Well, when do we get to that?
Yeah, when we get to that.
I think it's up to the
14 EDUs.
Board of Select.
committee and the Board of Selectmen and
Right.
the
We
various
can-
departments come up with a number. With the,
Might have a
We're
400
laying,
400
hold on, everybody, I can't hear. So the reality is, we can make suggestions, but it's really up to the Board of Selectmen and school committee. But we're laying the framework, and during that process, I think we will have some suggestions along the line. But as far as in-depth, so I don't know how in-depth we're gonna get. We can, when we have a joint meeting with them, we can bring items up and allow them to address them and decide what they're gonna do with them. I mean, we're not the selectmen. That's, thank God.
But we need a market basket for them to, of everybody's ideas as to things they,
But we also have a
Think about
time
it.
frame, so it's going to be very, what we need to do is get to the point where we have a basic plan, and as time goes on before the election, they have to flesh out that plan. I don't think we're going to have time to flesh it out completely before town meeting.
Absolutely.
Because again, we're not voting on the override, but we need to get it into a position to where they can defend whatever. We will have several meetings with that. All right, any more questions on this? Because I know everybody's tired. Yes, anybody? All right. Wow, let's move on to this. This is going to be fun. You want?
No, I want to just talk about the library for just a minute,
All right.
if you don't mind. I met with members of the Library Board of Trustees and one of the Board of Selectmen. The Library Board of Trustees came to us and said that they applied for a waiver from certificate because we don't meet all the requirements for certification. They're doing a great job with there's several requirements. I won't go through all the details, but they're okay with the hours that they're open, the materials purchased. They're not okay with the municipal portion of the budget. The town has to give a certain percentage, and according to the Mass Board of Library Commissioners, that percentage is supposed to that number is supposed to increase every year. And we have been telling them year after year, we can't do it. We're cutting all our departments. We can't give the library any more money. So that's been the argument. We've been able to get a waiver. I think this is our third or fourth year in a row going for a waiver, and the state is not happy with us. So the trustees have to go up, and the director of the library are going to go up and meet with the MBLC on February 6th, and they asked that a member of the Finance Committee and a member of the administration go up and speak as to the town situation. And I think at this point, I'm just giving you a heads up about it. I'm not sure that we've committed to do that because, in all honesty, we cannot look the library commissioners in the eye and say it's going to get any better. I can't say that. I mean, we can tell them that the library wasn't cut any more than any other department for this fiscal year. We're still looking at the waiver for fiscal 14. But I can't make any promises that it's going to be better in 15, so I don't know if it's better if we just don't go. So I
We'll
guess
let you go.
I may or
You
may
don't
not.
want me to go.
Yeah, I know.
That has been the
Well, the whole system, so I mean.
the whole system of
that's-
saying that you certify your library by how much money you put into it, and that you have to keep putting more or you lose your certification, as people are losing their jobs, really? They need to reevaluate how they evaluate libraries, in my opinion. I'll let that go.
Okay, let's.
So, that's my,
Win friends
that's a
and influence
report, I
library
guess, if there's any
That's
more
like saying
comments.
you raise really good kids by how much
we're
money
only
you
40%
spend on
of
them.
what they require.
Hey, Bonnie. She's right.
She's 100%
No,
right.
she's right, but at this point, we need to just.
I'll move on, Dick. Go ahead.
This is such a I don't even know what Fred might even have. Oh, we're up to the part where we talk about
We
finance.
didn't talk about that tonight.
No, we're gonna talk about it. Not that it's going to make anybody happy. The Finance Committee matters. Three terms are up in June. Jeffrey Tufts is filling a term. His will be up in June. Tom Worthing and myself are up in June. I'm at least positive that there'll be one, possibly two, openings on this committee. So what I'd like for, and I can promise you, and if the public is listening, I'll tell them, this committee is tough at times. And we all had, we were all, looked like we were 20 years old when we started this process.
Yeah, I had to go on here, everybody.
But it is a very rewarding process. You learn a lot about municipal government. You really do.
More than you ever wanted to know.
I can honestly tell you that when you walk in the door of a finance committee for the first time, you will be completely overwhelmed, and it takes a couple of years to finally get the grasp on what's going on. But it's worth it in the end, because when people are out there talking about things in public, you can sit in over there with your Dunkin' Donuts cup and snicker, because they really don't know what's going on a lot of times. So I encourage everybody out there, and I know there'll be at least one, maybe two openings on this committee. I don't know if Jeff is going to re-up. He ain't been here long, but he's already starting to look like a old vet. And I'm not, you don't have to, you do not have to tell us if you're going to re-up now, but it's going to be critical that you tell us around May so that we can move forward, because there's also the leadership, and we're going to probably need some new leadership on this committee down the line. We're going to need it, and so therefore we develop from within the committee. We don't go out and get people for leaders. We bring them in, and then the committee grooms them.
Can't we hire somebody?
You can try, but
You didn't get your paycheck? I didn't get mine either.
I know that
I was going to contribute mine.
I know that the three of you came on. You looked really scared when you were here at first, but now you're now you look like the rest of us.
Really
Still look scared.
For different reasons, though. Now you know. Now at least you know what to be scared of.
And so we're going to have to recruit at least one, possibly two members, and I don't know what everybody else is going to do. So, we're looking for good people out there if anybody's interested. We always would love to have a reporter from a paper or something on the committee, or because then we could then they would show up every time to report on us. But we do need to look at that. And if you know people that are interested, have them come to the meetings and watch and see what's going on. Probably not the best time to see us in action, but it's critical that we have good leadership going forward, because we've made a lot of progress over the time, and I think we're getting a level of credibility, despite the fact that we sometimes don't always agree, but we're getting a level of credibility, and we're doing things the right way, so I want to continue that.
Can I talk now?
Sure, go for it.
When he said leadership, he was looking right beyond me for a reason, because I've made it blatantly clear there is no way that I would step up into the chair of this committee, if you wanted me even, but I can't do it. I actually came back on the committee thinking that I was filling a position, not realizing I was stuck for a full 3 years. My situation may change. I may not be able to stay through the end of my term. I'm not making any promises one way or the other, but in any event, it would be irresponsible for me to even consider staying in the leadership role. So as long as I'm here, I'm going to talk, but just giving you the heads up on that now.
Yeah, that's kind of important when you're looking at people. You've got 3 slots going out. I'm sure Jeff's not going to let a few months bother him. He's going to come right back going June 1. But, the other 2 don't return. And the old timers over here are permanently done in the year following that.
That's right.
Okay?
Only have to take a year off. You
We
can
have
come
to
back.
When I go out this door, I'm gone. Maybe. So when you're talking about leadership, you're talking about, people to help guide that haven't been around as much, and, can really hash it out and, fill that role. I mean, you guys are just getting your feet wet, you're getting the roll in. So I think it's going to, the next year is going to be really, really interesting, and I hope some skilled people come forward. I really do.
I will not be returning. June 30th, I will be stepping down. I got a young daughter that's heavy into softball and ice hockey. As a matter of fact, they won 8-0 tonight, and she took an elbow to the back of the head and went down.
Oh.
But that's okay. She's tough. And I have a son who's graduating from college and most likely will be moving very, very far away, and I'd really like to go visit him. I mean, very far away, and I'd like to go visit and spend time with him. So, and with my job, I know everybody knows that sometimes I come in there looking like I don't know, beat up.
Who did it, Rand?
I look like Dom when I come here sometimes. So I have a difficult job sometimes, and
What a terrible thing to say.
but this has been one of the best experiences I've ever had. And if you had told these people 3 years ago they'd be working with me and I might even be the chair, they would have laughed you out of the building. But
He came back twice.
yeah, I tried
Really
twice to
wanted
get
to
on
be
this.
with us.
Well, I only tried once to get on the committee. The other time I was invited back. So, but I will not be returning. It's not because I don't believe in this committee. It's not because I don't believe in this town. It's just because I have other commitments that really, in my opinion, are more important to me, and that's my family. So,
So it's early warning, so we
Early
don't get to
warning,
June and
so-
say,
One year we can't come back.
Yep. June 3rd, it was, what is June, last day of
June
June
30th.
2015, we are done.
so anyway, let's move on.
do we have a motion to adjourn?
No, not yet. We have to approve minutes, and I don't really care about liaison reports tonight. So.
Read the minutes.
Minutes are good.
Okay, minutes are good. I'll take a motion to approve the meeting minutes, the minute meetings of December 18th, 2013.
So moved.
And a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstain? Aye, because I wasn't here. Next
What
meeting,
was that number of votes?
I'll abstain.
that would be 801.
No, he has to abstain too because he wasn't.
Were you not here? Okay, so that'd be 702,
Two,
because that adds up to 9.
Sorry, 702.
Yep.
603,
The next
but-
meeting is next week, next Wednesday, which is, I believe, come on, somebody help me, because I can't think right now.
Sunday's the second.
I can tell you,
It's
it's
the
going to be the
fifth.
5th.
Yeah. Thank you for looking up there, because I don't want to turn. So we'll be here at 6:30 on the 5th, and again, I'll have the agenda out Friday. Kelly will not be here for that meeting as well, so nobody to keep us in check, and we act foolish when she's not here. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. See you next week.